Hi, this is a short video tutorial on migrating an Oracle database from wherever on-prem to the Oracle Database Cloud Service. And there are two ways of doing that. One of them is if you want to move an entire database, whether it's 11G or a 12C instance, an entire container, you could use the Oracle iBackup method, which is basically backing up the database to the storage cloud and then using iBackup tooling in the database cloud service to restore that to a new instance. And I have shown that in a video tutorial that's shown on this slide here. So that's the first method. The second way of doing that is if you have a 12C database, you can actually unplug a PDB and then plug it, and migrate that or relocate that to the Oracle Cloud instance. So I'm going to do that here to show you how to move a PDB from one container to another. Now, for this demo, both the containers would exist in the cloud, but it applies equally if the source container or your source database is an on-prem 12C database. The lab guide for this tutorial and many others is available at oraclecloudlab.com. It's a site I maintain to distribute content during my hands-on events. If you're new to Oracle Cloud, then this will be very helpful since it contains prerequisite labs such as creating services, setting up secure access, even REST APIs. So go ahead and use those if you need to get started before you do this lab. The PDB migration lab is located right here, lab number 6. And these are PDF files, so you can actually just go ahead and download them and save it locally. And then the lift and shift lab, which is basically migrating the entire instance, the first method that I showed on the slide is lab number 7. So if you would like to try that out, all the steps for doing that are given here as well. Okay, so let's take a look at our source and target PDBs here. So what I've done is I have two different cloud accounts. I've configured one database here in one account called My On-Prem DB. The target account is here, My Cloud DB. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a PDB from My On-Prem DB and move it to My Cloud DB. So first, let's make sure that the databases are ready, and let's take a look at what the PDBs look like. So if I go to My On-Prem DB and I have to take a look at the PDBs, I have to first make sure the ports are open. So open SSL port 443. Go ahead and open this. All right, so first let's take a look at DBAS Monitor for the source and the target databases and see what the PDBs look like. I have both the source and target PDBs open. I have DBAS Monitor open for both. As you can see, I have this PDB in here called source PDB in the source database, and then on the target side, there's just one PDB called PDB1. So we will move source PDB over to this database. Since we're going to use SQL Developer to do the PDB migration, let's go ahead and set it up. Now, you make sure that you have the right version of SQL Developer because the older versions don't have the direct migrate to cloud option. So I'm using 17.2.0. Make sure it's either a higher version or at least a 17.2.0. First thing we do is set up an SSH connection to each of the hosts and then create a SQLnet connection right on top of it. For this, we would need the IP address of each of the hosts, and I have that right here. I'll go ahead and configure one, and then you basically repeat the same process for the second one. Grab the IP address from here. Connect as user Oracle. Same key file that was used while creating the instance. We just check this option here and leave the rest at default. Next, we create a SQL net connection using the SSH connection we just configured. Now here we want to make sure that we use the SID to connect, since we need to connect as a root user to the CDB and not use a service name to connect to any specific PDB as we typically do. Connection was successful. Let's go ahead and save this and connect. And finally, we set up a DBA connection here. If you don't see this window, just go to View and pick DBA. All you do is simply say Add Connection. The connection you just configured shows up here. That's it. And when you click on it, you should be able to see the container databases now, since we are connected to the CDB. And underneath it, all your PDBs should be visible. Okay, so do the same thing on the Cloud DB, the target database. And I'm going to pause the video and come back. Okay, so I have configured my Cloud DB as well, set up the SSH host, the connection, then finally the DBA connection here. And I can see my container databases, my container database and my PDBs for on-prem, as well as my Cloud DB. All right, so the move operation is pretty straightforward. You just go to your source database, which in this case is the on-prem DB, and I have this PDB which we said we're going to replicate. So first thing we need to do is, by default, it's open in read-write mode, assuming. So I'm just going to close it first, and then open it in read-only. And once it's open in read-only or mount state, then you can go ahead. Well, it needs to be open in read-only, and then you can go ahead and do the migration by just saying clone PDB to Oracle Cloud and pick your destination connection as the target connection. You can choose replug, which basically means it just plugs it back to the source after it's done cloning, or if you select delete, then it should remove it from the source PDB, source container, basically. So I'm just going to leave it as is. You click apply, and unfortunately, it just comes back without any status. That's how it is right now. So don't be alarmed by it. But eventually, if you come back after a few minutes, maybe 10-15 minutes, depending upon the size of your PDB and the network connection used, you should see the PDB replicated to the other container. Okay, so I came back after about 15 minutes, and I see that my Cloud DB, the container, does contain the PDB that I migrated. So this is as simple as that, to get a PDB moved from one instance to another, whether it's between two cloud instances or from an on-prem instance to the Oracle Cloud.